A carnival, if you think about what a carnival really is, it's a traveling event that comes through oftentimes towns that are...
In a stunning courtroom development, Judge Lehman has officially ruled against Blake Lively, declaring her emotional distress claims against Justin Baldoni completely dead. What began as a bold legal strategy ended in total collapse. Lively's last-minute attempt to withdraw those claims didn't just fail, it backfired spectacularly, exposing everything she had hoped to keep hidden. Once the ruling came down, Blake's case fell apart. What she thought might be her victory turned into a clear win for Justin Baldoni. Even her close friend Taylor Swift, whom she subtly tried to draw into the situation, stayed silent, choosing not to intervene. The judge's decision was absolute. The emotional distress claims weren't lingering or pending. They were gone for good. After months of courtroom theatrics, teary testimonies, and behind-the-scenes drama, the gavel finally struck, and this time it hit Blake's once polished public image. Her texts, voicemails, and unanswered messages to Taylor Swift now stand as quiet reminders of how isolated she's become. Lively seemed to believe that a few tears and emotional appeals could replace evidence, but the courtroom doesn't run on Hollywood logic. Her motion to dismiss without prejudice, which would have allowed her to revisit the claims later, was flatly denied under Rule 15. Judge Lehman's written order practically dripped with impatience, emphasizing that the law, not sympathy, rules the day. Faced with a choice between producing her mental health records or walking away in defeat, Blake chose humiliation over transparency. Now there's no turning back. The case can't be reopened, and any attempt to reframe the decision is just spin. Even industry outlets like Deadline, typically cautious with celebrity coverage, confirmed that the court explicitly rejected her request under Rule 15. It wasn't just a loss, it was a neon-lit embarrassment. The judge even warned her that if she doesn't formally withdraw the claims soon, she'll be permanently barred from introducing any emotional distress evidence in the future. The message was clear: the show is over. There are no second acts, no quiet comebacks. For Blake Lively, this chapter is closed, and the curtain has officially fallen. Let's be honest. Blake Lively wasn't just fighting a lawsuit. She was building a full-blown spectacle, a personal empire of narrative control. But the only empire she's managed to build now is one made of embarrassment. When a court calls your bluff in front of your ex, your best friends, and millions of fans, your image doesn't just take a hit, it goes up in flames. While her case still has other claims, the emotional distress angle was a major part of the damages, and its collapse is devastating. Her defenders argue that she shouldn't have to release her private medical information, but the court's position was clear: no evidence, no case. The judge denied her motion to dismiss without prejudice under Rule 15, signaling that Hollywood narratives don't override legal standards. And this isn't just a courtroom loss. It's a public unmasking. For years, Blake carefully crafted a polished PR image, complete with the perfect Hollywood friendships. One of her biggest talking points? The claim that Taylor Swift was the godmother of her first child. It sounded wholesome, heartwarming, and perfectly Instagrammable. But the timeline tells a different story. Blake's daughter James was born in December 2014. Taylor didn't even meet Blake until a full year later, in December 2015. Before that, there was no friendship, no connection, just clever PR. In fact, early 2015 interviews show actress Amber Tamblyn claiming that she and her sisterhood of the Traveling Pants co-stars, America Ferrera and Alexis Bledel, were the godmothers of Blake's child. Blake later had to walk that back, calling them spiritual support or fairy godmothers. So which version is real? First her sister was the godmother, then her friends, then Taylor, and now no one really knows. What's clear is that Blake has a long history of reshaping her own stories to seem more connected, more adored, more powerful. Even her children's christenings turned into PR showcases rather than private family moments. Fast forward to today, and the fantasy friendship has crumbled. After dragging Taylor's name into her legal mess, Blake's attempts to reconnect have gone nowhere. Texts, voicemails, emails, all ignored. She's been left on read like a desperate ex reaching out for one last conversation. Taylor, it seems, isn't picking up the phone, not out of malice, but indifference. It's poetic in a way. The woman who once flaunted her bond with Taylor Swift like a luxury brand now finds herself publicly ghosted. The same PR fairy tale she built to boost her image has unraveled into a cautionary tale about fame, manipulation, and karma. In the end, Blake Lively's real courtroom defeat isn't just legal, it's personal. She tried to turn her pain into performance, her connections into credibility, and her story into spectacle. But when the curtain finally dropped, all that was left wasn't victory. It was silence. The silence isn't just loud, it's deafening. And it's cutting deeper than any statement Taylor Swift could ever make. Because the message is unmistakable. Taylor doesn't care. In a brutal twist for her once best friend, Blake Lively's texts, calls, and emails to Taylor have gone completely unanswered. According to insiders, Taylor doesn't need to clap back. She simply moved on. Meanwhile, Blake is still stuck in last year's group chat, typing paragraphs to no one. So what's left? Her emotional distress claim, officially dead. Her Taylor as godmother story, publicly debunked. Her once glamorous friendship with the most powerful woman in pop culture, now nothing more than a ghost story. Sources say Blake hasn't stopped reaching out, begging to fix what they once had, but Taylor's silence remains absolute. Every message, every voicemail, every apology has gone ignored. It's a devastating reversal for a star who once built her brand on being relatable, witty, and effortlessly cool. Now she looks like a desperate ex-celebrity who doesn't realize the show is over. The spotlight's gone. The crowd's dispersed, and there she stands, still talking, while Taylor Swift walks away with a new circle, a clean conscience, and a front-row seat to the fallout. At the heart of all this lies the brutal truth. You can't file a lawsuit claiming emotional distress and expect to keep your secrets. That's not how the system works. But Blake tried to play the oldest Hollywood card in the deck. Launch a scandal, cry emotional trauma, then quietly disappear when the receipts come due. After dragging Justin Baldoni through months of reputational chaos, she simply dropped her emotional abuse claim. No speech, no tears, no closure, just silence. Why? Because she had nothing. No medical reports, no therapist notes, no documented distress, nothing to back up the story. The supposed evidence was a trail of pleading messages to Taylor, explaining there'd been some misunderstanding and that she'd never betray their 10-year friendship. But the contradiction was glaring. If she truly valued that bond, why weaponize it in court? It all came crashing down when the court sided with Baldoni's legal team, led by powerhouse attorney Brian Friedman, who dismantled her argument with surgical precision. Friedman made it crystal clear. Blake can't refile, can't revive, can't rewrite the narrative. The door isn't just closed, it's sealed, padlocked, and burned to the ground. If she thought she could retreat now and come back with new allegations once the headlines cooled off, she was wrong. That chapter is over, and the silence that follows isn't peaceful, it's punishment. Meanwhile, Blake Lively's PR team scrambled to spin the disaster as a mutual decision, insisting it was part of some clever legal strategy instead of what it really was, a full-blown panic exit. But there was no strategy. The only one who showed restraint was Justin Baldoni, who quietly walked away from the chaos without press tours or leaks to TMZ, letting Blake's own spin machine implode. His silence spoke louder than her entire campaign. While Blake was flinging accusations like confetti, Baldoni was doing something disarmingly human, sending an autograph and a handwritten apology to a fan months later. A small, genuine gesture that couldn't be faked. In contrast, Blake's behavior looked more like a performance, a messy act of character assassination with no follow-through and no receipts. So when she tried to claim distraction or emotional turmoil, the court had every right to dig deeper. If you allege mental distress, you open the door to scrutiny. They can examine your history, your therapist's notes, because it's relevant. And in this case, that relevance became Justin's biggest win. Then came the turning point. The media finally woke up. After months of echoing Blake's carefully crafted victim narrative, journalists began doing something almost unheard of in Hollywood: fact-checking. And when her story's timeline was held against reality, it shattered. The Daily Mail exposed that Taylor Swift was completely ghosting Blake's frantic attempts to reconnect. Texts, voicemails, emails, all unanswered. Then, just days later, People magazine published a strangely upbeat exclusive, claiming Blake and Taylor were working on being on good terms. Working on being on good terms. Really? 10 days after reports accused Blake's team of threatening Taylor with subpoenas, the idea of a friendly reunion was laughable. It felt like watching two different movies starring the same delusional lead. While one outlet tried to polish her image, the other exposed the cracks running straight through it. Through it all, Justin's team remained silent. No statements, no defensive press rounds. And that silence worked. Because in an age of overexposure, restraint reads as strength. Meanwhile, Taylor Swift was crafting her own quiet response by living visibly, but without words. She was photographed out with Selena Gomez and Dakota Johnson in Manhattan, smiling over dinner at a place where you want to be seen. That wasn't coincidence. It was precision. A public message without a single caption, life moves on. For Blake, it was the ultimate exclusion. Not just from a table at a restaurant, but from the narrative itself. Every time she pushed a headline, Taylor countered with stillness and subtlety. No hashtags, no subtweets, no statements, just the kind of silence that ends arguments, careers, and illusions. It was, in every sense, a masterclass in handling betrayal with indifference. This wasn't just a media failure. It was a full-scale brand collapse unfolding in real time. Blake Lively went from America's sharp-tongued sweetheart to a courtroom liability with a god complex. The moment the cameras stopped flattering her, she lost control of her own script. No medical records, no therapist statements, no consistent story. Her emotional distress claim didn't just lose, it vanished into thin air. Then came the questions. Why withdraw just as she was about to testify under oath? What exactly in those medical files was too inconvenient to reveal? What truths was she so desperate to bury that she'd rather destroy her own case than let them surface? Even Taylor Swift's silence became part of the reckoning. Good on her, really, because Blake had used her, exploited her fame, and betrayed their friendship in the process. Taylor didn't need to clap back. She just needed to walk away. Judge Lehman, meanwhile, had run out of patience. He didn't merely deny Blake's motion, he practically warned her to stop playing games in his courtroom. It was the judicial equivalent of saying, "This isn't Gossip Girl, Miss Lively." He wasn't interested in celebrity tactics or emotional theater. He wanted evidence, and evidence was the one thing Blake didn't have. Legal analysts tore into her case. Emotional distress claims are notoriously difficult to prove, even with genuine trauma. But Blake strutted through proceedings as if she were performing in a prestige drama, forgetting that judges don't care about red carpets or designer wardrobes. Her arrogance wasn't just tone-deaf, it was insulting. She truly believed the system would bend for her, that charm could replace proof. Instead, she was handed the legal equivalent of a public slap. No refiling, no rerun. Just a very public, very permanent fall from grace. Worse than losing is pretending you didn't. And that's exactly what Blake tried to do, acting as if her lawsuit remained intact while the foundation was already rubble. She wanted a blockbuster narrative but got tabloid headlines instead. Blake Lively's claims collapse. Taylor Swift cuts ties. Judge rejects emotional distress plea. The court's message was final. If she doesn't withdraw the claims properly, she'll be barred from ever presenting emotional distress evidence again. At this point, it stopped being a legal story. It became a personality autopsy. Every move Blake made exposed the truth. She was never the victim. She was the architect of her own downfall. The more she tried to sell heartbreak to the media, the clearer it became. She wasn't hurting, she was furious that she got caught. Now, with the judge slamming the door shut, the press moving on, and Taylor Swift quietly living her best life, Blake Lively stands alone in the courtroom that once felt like her stage. Only now there's no audience, just the echo of her own performance. The PR applause has stopped. And as the dust settles, she does what every fallen star does when the spotlight fades. She pivots to business. So what does Blake Lively do after her lawsuit implodes, her godmother myth collapses, and her A-list reputation turns to ash? She launches a line of vodka teas. Because in Hollywood, when you can't control the narrative anymore, you start bottling it instead. That's right. While the media dragged her name through legal mud, Blake decided it was the perfect time to sell a product she doesn't even consume. A woman who has publicly declared multiple times that she doesn't drink alcohol is now selling it. You can't make this stuff up. I find that she was a huge fan of Swift's music. And then they later met during Swift's 1990-1989 world tour in Australia. And there's a photo of the two of them together in December 2015. Her new brand, Betty Booze, because apparently if the courtroom doesn't go your way, you distract the public with a lemon wedge and a false narrative. Two fancy flavors, mere lemonade and passion fruit vodka iced tea, hit the shelves faster than her credibility hit the floor. Not just sweet, you can probably quantify a box office based on Taylor just doing something like that. Of course, it's a plus when Taylor Swift promotes your movie, and the internet reaction, let's just say it wasn't thirst. It was confusion, mockery, and a lot of side eyes. TikTok users immediately spotted the contradiction. Why is a sober actress pushing liquor like she's the next Martha Stewart of hangovers? This wasn't brand building. It was panic branding. A last-stitch effort to distract from her very public legal implosion. The timing was painfully tone-deaf. One day she's framing Justin Baldwin for emotional distress. The next she's flaunting pastel cocktail cans as if the trial never happened. Critics didn't miss a beat, calling it exactly what it was, a cheap deflection. The booze wasn't selling, the story wasn't selling, and neither was the fake authenticity she's clung to for years. The irony? Blake built her image around being not like other girls. Witty, sharp, classy. But the moment things got uncomfortable, she became just like every other celebrity in crisis, using consumer goods to bury bad press. You know what doesn't pair well with vodka? Court transcripts and subpoenas. But she served it anyway, and the public didn't sip. It spit it out. Of course, even Betty Booze couldn't mask the real reason her house of cards collapsed. Taylor Swift cut her off, and not over a text spat or misunderstanding. This went much deeper. Insiders say Blake's legal team didn't just name-drop Taylor. They allegedly tried to subpoena her. Yes, Blake thought dragging one of the most powerful women in entertainment into her petty courtroom drama was a good idea. And if that wasn't delusional enough, it reportedly triggered Taylor's dad, Scott Swift, who personally condemned the move. When dad gets involved, you know it's serious. She's focusing on her booze line this week after focusing on her hair care line, which is bombing. Now she's focusing on Betty Booze with 2 vodka iced teas, Mayor lemonade, and passion fruit. Blake wasn't done burning bridges. In a desperate move, she threatened to leak old messages between her and Taylor, like a teenager digging through dusty screen